There's a quiet moment in every connection where a woman decides whether she's going to lean in closer or step back. You won't catch it happening in the words she says, and you won't hear it in the tone of her voice, but you'll sense it. It's in the way her enthusiasm softens, the way her focus shifts, the subtle changes in her energy that make her harder to read. Most men respond instinctively. They push harder, explain more, give more of themselves, and that's precisely the instant where the dynamic often collapses. Because here's the truth she'll never admit. She's not measuring your effort, she's gauging your center. She wants to see if you can stay steady when the emotional weather changes. Most men can't. They panic, fold, and lose themselves in the process. But you don't have to. If you stay with me, I'm going to explain the psychology behind that crucial moment and how you can turn it to your advantage every time. There's a reality most women will never voice aloud. It's not cruelty, it's just the part of attraction that isn't meant to be seen. The pull toward uncertainty, the magnetic tension of a man who isn't easily read or controlled. Women aren't drawn to predictable comfort the way men assume they are. They're drawn to the man who feels slightly out of reach, the one whose presence makes their thoughts race, whose energy sharpens their emotions, and whose unpredictability keeps their curiosity alive. She won't admit it because it conflicts with the image she's been taught to present. The stable, grounded, emotionally open, good girl she's supposed to be. But beneath that image, desire doesn't follow the script. Attraction thrives in tension, not certainty. And that tension, she feels it most when she can't neatly categorize you. This is why the silent tests happen before you even realize she's evaluating you. The sudden change in her tone, the message that goes unanswered, the subtle coolness in her energy, all of it makes you question whether something changed. Often, she isn't doing it consciously. Sometimes it's instinct, sometimes fear. Sometimes it's her way of seeing if you remain steady when she steps back. And yes, many women are drawn to men who seem emotionally unavailable, not because they want pain, but because that unavailability signals something rare: autonomy. A man who moves to his own rhythm, who doesn't cling, who doesn't bend under pressure. That distance creates a dopamine spike. When she feels she doesn't completely have you, her mind invests more. She imagines, analyzes, and anticipates. And it's in that anticipation, between what she knows and what she wants to understand, where attraction grows. Here's the part she'll never admit. She isn't attracted to the man she fully understands. She's drawn to the one she can't predict. Men often think they fail because they're too nice, but that's never the real reason. You don't fail because you're kind. You fail because she can sense when your kindness is masking fear. Fear of conflict, fear of displeasing her, fear of not living up to an image you want her to approve. The moment she detects that fear, everything shifts. Women don't pull away from nice guys because they prefer toxicity. They pull away because predictable softness signals something they can't desire: a man who has surrendered his own power. When you make yourself fully accessible, agreeable, and safe, stripping away any edge or tension, she doesn't feel protected. She feels responsible for steering the connection, and that responsibility quietly drains her. Attraction doesn't grow from comfort alone. It starts with respect. Without respect, comfort becomes neutrality, and neutrality slips into indifference. She can admire your kindness, but desire only comes from strength, not dominance or control, but the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't shrink himself just to be chosen. Picture this. She says something you disagree with. Instead of calmly stating your position, you smile, nod, and avoid friction. She notices. She won't call it out, but she registers the moment you chose agreement over honesty. And another layer of attraction slips away because what she wants isn't someone who bends. She wants someone who stands. Women aren't repelled by kindness. They're repelled by a lack of backbone behind it. They want to know that who you are isn't dependent on how much you think they'll like you. They want to feel your self-respect first, before desire even has a chance to develop. Nice guys don't finish last because they're good people. They finish last because they give up their power before the relationship even begins. Every man who's ever cared too much too quickly knows the shock of it. One moment she's warm, engaged, leaning into the connection. The next, she pulls away, sometimes like she never felt anything at all. The cold shoulder, the half-hearted replies, the "I'm fine" followed by silence, the unread messages, they hit like a physical weight on your chest. It feels personal, but most of the time it isn't meant to hurt. It's an ancient psychological rhythm that predates modern dating. Here's what actually happens. When a woman senses the emotional momentum shifting too fast toward your side, she instinctively pulls back. Not because she's losing interest, but because she's losing control of the pace. That moment of distance triggers what psychologists call a withdrawal spike. It's a natural rhythm, a subtle test to see if you can hold your ground, maintain your center, and remain magnetic even when she steps away. Most men fail here, but the ones who understand this rhythm can turn it to their advantage, creating deeper attraction, more curiosity, and an emotional pull that feels inevitable. Understanding this doesn't make you manipulative. It makes you aware. It allows you to navigate the silent currents of desire without losing yourself. Women rarely verbalize these truths, not because they're trying to deceive, but because these patterns exist beneath conscious thought, at the level of instinct, chemistry, and emotional resonance. And when you grasp this, you stop chasing validation, stop over-explaining, and start embodying the kind of presence that draws attention effortlessly. Strength balanced with kindness, stability balanced with unpredictability, presence balanced with autonomy. That is the combination that keeps her intrigued, invested, and genuinely attracted. But the moment she senses even the slightest tremor in your steadiness, something shifts beneath the surface. Your nervous system reacts as if something precious is slipping away. Instantly, the chase instinct kicks in. You feel the urge to fix it, to explain, to pull her back into your orbit, and that's precisely where most men falter. Panic creeps in, subtle yet undeniable, and when she perceives that panic, she learns exactly where she has influence over you. Her withdrawal isn't always a calculated maneuver. Sometimes it stems from fear, sometimes insecurity, and other times it's simply a way for her to test whether your stability relies on her behavior or on your own foundation. If her silence unsettles you, she senses the dynamic tilt in her favor. If you spiral, she registers the power that her absence creates. And yet, that power isn't what she truly craves. What she's searching for is a different kind of reassurance, not one spoken aloud but felt through your unwavering presence when the energy around you changes. Here's the truth that most men never fully grasp. If her quietness sparks panic in you, she already knows where she can control the situation. But if your response is calm, grounded, and collected, she experiences something she didn't anticipate. She feels respect. Her pullback isn't a call for you to chase. It's an invitation to remain centered, unshaken. A woman feels safest with a man whose emotions aren't tossed about by the first hint of uncertainty. When she steps back, the strongest move you can make is to stay steady, to hold your center, to let your presence speak for itself. One of the most bewildering shifts a man encounters is when a woman who once seemed affectionate and balanced suddenly frames herself as the wounded party. She becomes quieter, softer, almost fragile, and every disagreement is reframed as something you caused. Even when the situation is far more nuanced, it can feel manipulative, unfair, or intentionally designed to provoke. But beneath that surface lies something far more complex. Many women adopt the victim role not out of cruelty, but as a mechanism for emotional survival. When she feels unheard, uncertain, or destabilized in the connection, this role becomes a way to regain control without confrontation. It places the emotional weight onto you, and in moments of anxiety, that shift feels protective for her. This is also why triangulation emerges. She might reference another man who understands her, or quote a friend's opinion about your behavior, subtly introducing a third perspective into the dynamic. Not to sabotage the connection, but to regain footing, to feel steady within herself. When her fears feel overwhelming, she creates a scenario where you are the one challenged, outnumbered by circumstances she can manage emotionally. And then guilt becomes her tool, not to destroy, but to restore equilibrium. Phrases like, "maybe I'm too much," or "perhaps you don't care like I thought," aren't always manipulation. Often they're her way of projecting anxiety, trying to soothe discomfort she doesn't yet know how to manage on her own. Most men miss this entirely. They assume her words are weapons aimed at them, when in reality, she's attempting to regain emotional stability the only way she knows. If you don't recognize the pattern, it's easy to get pulled into the spiral, apologizing for things you didn't do, over-explaining, over-giving, trying to fix feelings that aren't yours to fix. And the more you attempt to rescue her from emotions she hasn't processed, the faster the balance tips. Your role isn't to carry her emotional weight. Your role is to observe, remain grounded, and refuse to participate in a battlefield built on guilt rather than clarity. Every man has heard variations of her rules. I don't kiss on the first date, I don't move too fast, I'm not that kind of woman. Yet somewhere in her past, there was a man who broke every one of those rules without hesitation. That contradiction can drive men crazy, but it only seems contradictory if you misunderstand what those rules are really for. Women don't create dating rules as rigid moral codes. They're emotional safety nets, designed to protect her while she gauges a man's intentions, his emotional depth, his consistency, and his capacity to handle vulnerability. These rules aren't instructions for love. They're a risk management system. When uncertainty is high or desire is low, the system is strict, but when desire surges, the rules collapse. That's why she might take things cautiously with one man and move with lightning speed with another. It isn't fickleness, it's instinct. Attraction rewrites her internal rules instantly, bypassing the barriers she had carefully constructed. Here's the insight most men overlook. Her rules are not immovable boundaries. They're filters, designed to reveal where you stand in her internal hierarchy. Procedural texting, slow escalation, measured responses, these aren't arbitrary. They indicate a lack of full trust in her own feelings for you. But when she bends, ignores, or discards those rules, it signals something profound. She perceives you as an exception. Something about you reaches her instincts directly, bypassing fear. This isn't about judging or demonizing her. It's about understanding the silent logic shaping her behavior. Women aren't inconsistent, they're responsive. Their actions adapt to the depth of feeling they have for the man in front of them. When a woman breaks her own rule with you, she's telling you something real. You're not a risk. You're the exception. You've reached the place where her instincts recognize safety and desire simultaneously. She's not merely bending for convenience. She's allowing herself to feel something she hasn't allowed freely before. And this is where the true rhythm of attraction exists. The balance between challenge and security, between anticipation and presence. Your ability to remain grounded, calm, and centered while she tests, pulls back, or reframes the dynamic is what sustains desire. It's what turns fleeting interest into lasting engagement. It's the invisible thread that keeps her invested, curious, and genuinely captivated. And yet, there's another layer most men never see. When she reinforces every rule with precision, she's communicating something too, but not in words. Love rarely unfolds all at once, but illusion can arrive in an instant. That's why the early stages of certain connections feel intoxicating, almost surreal. What she offers isn't just affection, it's a mirror, a carefully attuned reflection of you that makes you feel understood, chosen, and seen in ways you haven't experienced for years. She matches your rhythm, your humor, your values, even your vulnerabilities, not out of manipulation, but because mirroring is a natural method for women to create emotional alignment quickly. It draws you together, making the connection feel inevitable. Then comes the stage commonly called love bombing. Day 1, she tells you how easy it is to talk to you. Day 2, she swears she's never felt this kind of chemistry. By day 3, she talks about timing, fate, or the rarity of the connection. By day 4, she's imagining what the future might hold with you. By day 5, you start to wonder if you finally found someone who understands every corner of your being. This rapid escalation isn't inherently manipulative, although it can be if she lacks emotional stability. Often, it's her way of anchoring certainty before allowing herself to fall. She intensifies affection to secure the bond. But the risk lies in the pace. The faster the emotional high, the harder the crash when reality interrupts the fantasy. Here's the key insight. A woman mirrors the man she wants to keep, not necessarily the one she respects. If she senses that you remain grounded, intentional, and unshaken by the emotional rush, mirroring becomes a bridge to authentic intimacy. But if she sees you abandoning your center, sacrificing your boundaries, reshaping your life to accommodate her intensity, the illusion becomes fragile, and once it fractures, attraction can follow. Love bombing feels like a gift, but it's often a test masquerading as a dream. You're not meant to reject it, but you're not meant to drown in it either. Your role is to stay present, aware, and steady, discerning connection from projection. A man doesn't lose a woman the moment she steps away. He loses her the instant he abandons himself for her. And this decline often starts quietly, long before you even recognize it. Small sacrifices, canceling plans to be available, modifying opinions to avoid friction, offering more affection, reassurance, and effort, trying to preserve the version of her you fell for at the start. None of these actions are inherently wrong, but collectively, they create a pattern she notices before you do, a gradual erosion of your identity. When a man overgives, a woman doesn't feel adored. She feels burdened. She senses the weight of expectation in every gesture. He wants to impress, to be enough, to be chosen. And when desire turns into overcompensation, attraction quietly diminishes. Pedestalizing becomes dangerous. When she becomes the center of your universe, she loses the ability to feel you as a man with gravity, direction, and self-respect. Instead, she experiences the pressure of being your sole source of meaning. No woman wants that long-term. From her perspective, this is instinctive. The more you orbit her, the more she steps back. The more you overinvest, the more she withholds. It isn't cruelty, it's biology. Imbalance kills desire. She cannot be drawn to a man who treats her like a prize he must constantly win. She's drawn to a man who treats himself as someone worth choosing. The hard truth, when you make her your world, she can no longer feel you as a man. Seeking constant validation, approval, and reassurance turns you into a responder instead of a leader in your own life. Once you surrender that inner leadership, the dynamic collapses. But reclaiming your power doesn't mean withdrawing in anger or playing games. It means returning to yourself, your purpose, standards, and boundaries. Your value has never depended on how much you give. It lives in the way you lead your own life, not in how tightly you cling to hers. Every man reaches a point where he realizes the true challenge wasn't understanding her. It was mastering himself. The moment you stop reacting out of fear, urgency, or emotional dependence, everything shifts. You stop defending, chasing clarity, and negotiating scraps of reassurance. You start moving from a place of direction and inner authority, not dominance, not control, but self-possession. When a woman pulls back, most men rush forward. When she grows cold, they heat up. When she wavers, they overcompensate. But attraction doesn't thrive on effort. It thrives on balance. And balance begins with your ability to remain grounded. Reclaiming your power looks like this. You mirror her distance, not to punish, but to restore equilibrium. When she becomes quieter, you don't chase. You respond with calm, deliberate space, signaling something she rarely encounters, a man whose emotions aren't hijacked by her fluctuations. Second, you reinforce boundaries through action, not words. Consistency communicates more than explanations ever could. This approach isn't cold or detached. It's a quiet magnetism, a signal of inner direction that she instinctively respects. It reassures her without over-explaining, draws her without chasing, and maintains the invisible thread that turns fleeting interest into genuine attachment. In these moments, desire deepens not because of gestures, but because your presence communicates autonomy, self-respect, and emotional gravity. You don't have to manipulate her feelings to sustain attraction. You simply have to embody the man who cannot be unbalanced by her shifts, who leads himself first, and whose calm becomes the anchor for everything she feels. When understood and applied, this principle transforms every interaction. The subtle pauses, the mirrored distance, the quiet boundaries, they aren't games. They're the framework of magnetic presence. She feels the pull because you're not chasing her energy. You're radiating your own. And that, more than anything else, is what makes a connection feel unshakable, desired, and real. But sustaining that presence requires more than just awareness. It requires structure. Boundaries aren't speeches or ultimatums, they're standards. They're the moments when you step back from unclear energy, when you refuse to engage with mixed signals, when you simply won't negotiate with inconsistency. A woman doesn't need you to announce these limits. She feels them deeply in the way you carry yourself, in the calm that doesn't bend to her fluctuations. Next, you reduce emotional investment in ambiguity. When you throw your energy into someone who offers only uncertainty, your nervous system starts craving exactly what destabilizes you. Pull your focus from what isn't solid and reinvest it into yourself, your goals, your discipline, your clarity, your purpose. Purpose is the anchor. No emotional storm can move it. Then, reclaim your autonomy, emotionally and mentally. She should complement your life, not consume it. When you lead yourself, when your sense of security isn't dependent on her reactions, paradoxically, that's when she feels safest with you. Women are drawn to men who are steady, not detached, not indifferent, but capable of feeling deeply without losing themselves. This is how you shift the dynamic without aggression, manipulation, or games. You're not withdrawing to punish her. You're centering yourself to protect your emotional architecture, and the results are immediate. Her tone, her effort, her investment, and her respect all respond to the stability you embody. Here's a truth no one teaches men. You don't win by controlling her. You win by controlling yourself. Every pullback, every test, every mirroring, every rule she follows or breaks, it isn't personal. It's psychological, instinctual. Understanding these patterns doesn't make you cynical, it makes you conscious. It allows you to step out of the emotional fog and finally see the structure behind her behavior and behind your own reactions. You stop negotiating your worth. You stop reacting blindly. You stop measuring yourself against her mood or attention. Instead, you move with clarity instead of confusion, direction instead of desperation, presence instead of panic. That version of you is magnetic. Lasting attraction isn't born from chasing or pleasing, it comes from calm confidence, the ability to stay grounded when emotions rise, to set boundaries without hostility, to hold your identity without shrinking, and to prioritize yourself without apology. When you master this, you don't need to chase power in a relationship. You become the power in the relationship. If this message hit harder than you expected, it means you were ready to hear it. If you're ready to be the man who doesn't lose himself in love, stay with this channel. Hidden Waters is where men wake up, rise up, and reclaim the part of themselves they've been giving away for far too long. Subscribe, like, and share this video, and drop a comment below telling me which part resonated the most. Transformation begins with awareness, and it continues with the choices you make from that awareness.